I like to think that maybe I'm the Aldi of event spaces, right?
Yes.
I can run this whole operation with two people, and many times it's just me.
Okay.
And what happens is, we have a lobby area, and I have two daughters as well who will come down and help out, sometimes begrudgingly, but they're teenage daughters, right? So.
Hey everyone, it is Tony Will. Oh my gosh, you guys are in for a treat for this episode of Women In. I cannot wait for you to meet my next guest. But before you meet him, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generations. Whether our paths cross professionally or personally, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world. And this gentleman is definitely one of them. Jeff Revilla is a podcast creator, entrepreneur, and community builder dedicated to helping people learn, connect, and share their stories. Jeff is the founder of Poduty Live, a theater space built for independent podcasters to broadcast their shows to the world. The theater also serves as a central meeting space designed to bring podcasters together for education, collaboration, and community. With a background in technology and a passion for lifelong learning, Jeff has built platforms that foster meaningful conversation and authentic relationships. Through his work in podcasting, event creation, and community leadership, he empowers others to amplify their voices and create lasting impact. Known for his curiosity, humor, and ability to connect with people, Jeff continues to inspire audiences through storytelling, learning, and collaboration. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Is it so cool to hear your bio read to you?
I was like, wow, that sounds really good. This going to be a great guest.
Well, hey, it's up to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. So tell everyone how you and I came into each other's lives.
Yeah, we first met on a podcast that I do called Poduty in the News. And I saw what you were working on. I saw the events, and I said, this is somebody I need to get in contact with. You're moving and shaking in the podcast industry. I'm talking about this new type of podcasting that's really rising up. It's starting to become like a form of entertainment. I'm like, who's going to have a better perception on the future of podcasting than inviting you on the show? And that was a great connection. One of the best episodes we've done so far.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take the compliment. And it was so unique. I've hosted I think you're going to be episode like 227 of Women In. And so I've hosted a lot of podcasts. I've been guest, not nearly as many as I've hosted, but yours was so unique and fun and not the traditional format, which we're kind of doing right now. What made you decide to go in that direction?
Well, the theater was a big part of that. I opened a space for podcasters to come in, perform live shows. I'm like, how can I get traction on this place? I was like, what if I did a live podcast about live podcasting and recorded it live at the theater? That could touch all bases. And I just fell in love with the concept. And the early episodes are just kind of me reading news stories. But as the show has evolved, and you kind of you were kind of on the transition of that, where I realized that this isn't just a news show. This is really an interview show disguised as a news show. And I tailor these 6 stories to the experiences and expertise of my guests. And when I read the story and I say like, oh, this person was maybe live at a conference. Well, whatever that story is usually related to the experience that my guest is. So I turn the floor over to them after I cover the story, and I let them tell their perspective. I let them tell their story, so that you're getting this other perspective of, why, one, why is this person on the show? Well, 2, they're going to tell you 6 times during these 6 stories why they're such an expert, why they're perfect for this future model of podcasting.
Yeah, it is really cool. I got to imagine that you've had guests that are like, what are we doing? And have a chance, because they're used to this more traditional format. So I don't know. I mean, do you have any funny stories about they're like, what?
Yeah, because I'm very detail oriented. I send about 9 pages of notes. 6 of them are the stories. 3 of them are, why I chose these stories, why they relate to your experience. But there's still people who come on the show who think it's an interview show. Like, oh, what are we going to be talking about? Are we going to do Q&A, or are we going to do things? And it is a little different. And I'm explaining it's still an interview show. We're still going to talk about all your accomplishments, all the things you've done, but in relation to these current events. And once they get over it, everybody kind of knocks it out of the park, and it's great to hear these other perspectives. Or else you're just hearing me for 6 stories go, well, it's good to go live. You can get in front of an audience. You can build better connection. But I'd rather hear that from people all over the world telling me their story and how they've done it, how they would incorporate these stories into their strategy.
You really can tell too, I think, who has good interview chops. I mean, that's how I felt, and that's not to toot my own horn, but I'm like, man, if you're someone that is flying by the seat of your pants or isn't quite confident in your interview style, like you're putting yourself to the test. I felt like, but in a good way.
Yeah. Well, we do 6 stories in 30 minutes, so we're rarely more than 4 to 5 minutes. So if a segment kind of goes off the rails a little bit, I'll kind of read into that and kind of tailor the next story so it's a little bit softer. I'll speak a little bit more after the story and kind of give them a soft landing into it. And by the 3rd or 4th story, they're moving full speed ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Did you do that for me? Do you recall?
No, you took over right at the beginning. I loved it.
That sounds like me. Like, I'll just do this job.
Yeah,
He's like, Jesus.
I think you pushed me out of the way and then just took over.
Where's the studio? I'll just be there. Well, let's start talking about that, because you and I talked a little off air about the studio, but let's go back. Tell everyone where are you in the world right now, and talking about like what led you between where you ended up in the world and how you ended up with this theater and everything in between. It's a big question, but I'm going to let you take it away.
So my geographic location is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, western side of PA. Lived here my whole life. I'm turning 50 on Friday, which will be in the past, which will be June 12th. Next year, if anybody's listening wants to send me a card, that'd be great. I'll be 51. But I started tinkering with podcasting in 2011, did some things that I had no idea what I was doing, didn't understand RSS feed. But around 2015, I wanted to do something again. I started putting together this idea for a trivia show, and it just happened to coincide with a new platform that was launching called Blab. And Blab was this first four-in-the-box live streaming service that had this amazing social element where you could go live and they would just dump 30 people into your live stream, and it was chaos. I would go live and I needed 8 contestants. So how powerful Blab was, I didn't know who those 8 contestants were when I hit record. They brought them to me. So it was this huge community of people who loved each other, loved the creations, loved what they were building. And I would do, like, the first 20 shows are just me without knowing who the guests are going to be, doing a tournament. And Blab didn't have a way to monetize. So the downside of Blab was it did grow really rapidly, but it also collapsed under its own weight. The servers couldn't keep up. They couldn't keep the shows up and running. And if you meet anybody who was around in 2015, 2016, and they were on Blab, we all have like this special place in our hearts. Like, we remember how great that was, like peak internet for us. Like, we love the community aspect. We love feeling like a family, going live and supporting each other, because it also recorded your episode and gave you the recording. This was a free service in 2015, 2016. So when that crumbled, we all like scattered, right? Like, somebody turned the lights on, in New York City, and all the cockroaches in the apartment, go in 50 different directions. We tried Appear-In and Hop-In and Google Hangouts and, using Skype, nothing worked like Blab did. And I started thinking this idea, well, if I can't go to a space online and have people come to me, what if I go to the people? What if I figure out a way to do theater anywhere or podcast anywhere? And I built this concept of a couple speakers, a podium, some microphones that fit in the back of my sedan, and I could travel and set up. And we did some shows. We did some shows in like car parking lots, in coffee shops, and we were just performing for people. And it was so great to actually have a podcast being performed in front of people. And I just fell in love with that concept. And I was like, well, what's the next evolution of this? What if I don't have to set up all the time and tear down? And and I could reach more people. What if I had a dedicated space that was, 40, 60, 100 people theater, and I could record that show, get professional quality recording, but also sell tickets. I could have people come into the theater, but not be limited by the capacity of that building. And that's where this infinite seat theater concept came up that I first presented at Podfest back in 2020. And it was the idea of what if these small spaces and these small towns could be like little Saturday Night Live studios, little TV studios that were performance places, but also could reach the world. And there's, in the turnover, like there's no turnover, there's no tear down, there's no setup. It's white glove service, turnkey. You could come in off the street, record your show, and leave with your recording. So it's this combination of a comedy club, a podcast studio, a recording studio, a theater, all in one, so that independent creatives can walk in and really elevate their show. Because something we really found out after we went live with the theater is when podcasts say, "Hey, we're going to be live at the Poduty Podcast Theater on June 12th," that like instantly elevates the credibility of your show. Where your friends and family like, "Oh, little Jeffy does this podcast thing in the basement." But when you do it live and you're going to be on a main stage at a theater, think of how that changes the perception of your show. And this is like the best side effect of having a theater is we're elevating independent creators at a level that they never thought was attainable 6-12 months ago.
Yeah, and this is a passion project for you, correct? Because you work full time.
Yeah, still work full time. The theater is, quote unquote, what my accountant would say, an expensive hobby. It's
Podcasting is an expensive hobby.
Yeah. But I do love it. Like I grew up in that skateboarding punk rock of the 80s and 90s. So to me, like DIY and building something that you own, creating something that you're the only stakeholder in, to me that's like how the world should work.
Yeah.
And giving that to people to be able to walk in, have that take agency of the stage, of the theater, of the recording, that's theirs. They own all that creation. That's the space I want to play in. And I think I'm maybe a little bit ahead of the curve of where the public is. But if you look at what's happened in the last 6 months with how people are revolting against AI, how people are screaming for in-person things to do and community events, I might be positioned, this might be the best position of my life in the next 6 to 12 months, because I really think the public is hungry for things to do, third spaces, things that don't cost an arm and a leg. You try to look up what concert prices are, theater prices, even baseball, amusement park. You can't get out the door for less than $100 anymore. But these small events, they're $5, $10, $15 for 2, 3, 4 hours. Sometimes, a lot of times, the hosts are catering. It's like a cookout or a potluck in the theater, where it's a party atmosphere. And there's this new thing that's happening that I just love. Like, I want to be there at every show. I'm always producing. I'm always helping setting up and tearing down. And it is so amazing to see what can happen in a 2-hour place in a little 40-seat theater.
So I'm so fascinated at this model, and I have so many questions because I'm going to rein myself in. Let's talk about Podfest real quick. Tell everyone what Podfest is.
Podfest is like one of the biggest independent podcast conferences. If you want to learn about podcasting, if you want to network with some of the best podcasters, if you want to make friends and just find a community, Podfest is a great place to do that. It's on everybody's level. If you're just starting out, there's just starting out level. If you're intermediate, you'll find your people. And it doesn't have that gigantic corporate feel, not like a CES in Vegas or like those big shows that you hear about. It's very grassroots, it's very independent, very DIY, and it's a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I went for the first time this year. And I was speaking, so there was a conference within Podfest called Amplify Sober Voices, and I was speaking at that conference, and then I attended Podfest and afterwards as a first timer going, and at that point my podcast was a year and a half old, it just turned 2 years old. I'm like, this is phenomenal. Like, I learned so much. Were you there this year?
No, not this year. No.
Okay. All right. Maybe next
We could have high-fived.
We could have, yeah. Could have done a podcast together,
Yeah.
and but there's so many people there. It was really cool. I learned a ton. So, okay, so with the theater, how do you balance, I guess, because I work in sports and entertainment. Now, our arena is, 5,000 seats, and you're talking about 40 seats, but I understand the inner workings of how it is to hold event space and the operational side. So how do you balance all of that and do running production, and do you have contracts for the people coming in there? And I mean, there's a business side to this, and so it's leading me down the path of business and monetization and all of that. So I guess share a little bit about that piece, as this is your expensive hobby.
I like to think maybe I'm the Aldi of event spaces, right?
Yes.
I can run this whole operation with 2 people, and many times it's just me.
Okay.
And what happens is, we have a lobby area, and I have 2 daughters as well who will come down and help out, sometimes begrudgingly, but they're teenage daughters, right? So sometimes they really want to help me out, and sometimes they're like, Dad's the worst person on earth for dragging me to this place to do this. But a lot of time, like I mentioned, there's always like free food and drinks and stuff, so I can entice them a little bit. So once the show gets up and running, I can produce that. One person can produce it. I can run slides, hit the recording. So the behind the scenes stuff really is just one person. And if I have to, I can jump back. But the curtain for my control room is up against the counter. So if somebody wants to get a snack during the show, I can pop back and forth. So I really designed this to be as efficient as possible. And 1 to 2 people running it max is all we really need. And we have an event coming in this weekend. It's a musical act. They're hiring security for that. Mm-hmm. So that'll help me out even more. I can probably even have them do some of the check-ins, so that it's designed to be run with a skeleton crew.
Okay.
Which keeps the cost way down, and especially like family members. You don't always have to pay them. You can buy them dinner or something afterwards.
Yeah. So did you bought this space?
No, I'm just renting it. $800 a month. Yeah, look at it for the.
Okay, so you're renting it, and yeah. I could see, I know, and when I was there, you were the one-man show. Well, not there, I was there virtually, but you're the one-man show doing it all, and you had a kick-ass theme song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Poduty and the news. Yeah.
Yes, it's a funny picture of Jeff. You guys, you have to go listen. Like, you have a sense of humor. Clearly, that aligns completely with how I am. Just be authentic, be yourself, and do what you love.
And that's really important to me. Like, this is a fun, safe place. Like, this is a place where a lot of people are trying new ideas. People are coming in where they haven't done anything but record in their house. So like, I am a giggly guy. Like, I am fun. I'm making jokes all the time, and it's always with love and respect. Like, we'll goof around. We will be silly, but you can have the same feeling of safety when you're on that stage. Like, nobody in that audience is going to judge you. Nobody's going to tell you, hey, you can't say those things. Get off the stage. This is a place for creativity. It's a place to really experiment and push the boundaries of what you thought was possible.
Yeah, because I work, my day job is in pro sports. I've done a lot of work to lift women up in pro sports and host women's networking events. And in the networking event, I'm like, well, let's add an entertainment element. So I've done Women In live on multiple stages around the country. I'm doing one in a couple weeks in Nashville. And it's really been, like you said, like a credibility builder, but also bringing podcasting, because you've watched it evolved over a decade plus, 15 years really. And so it is like saying, hey, not that people think podcasts are irrelevant, but maybe they haven't checked them out in a while. So bringing that live element to a space so people can see what it is like, I've experienced firsthand, and I know it's helped my podcast grow.
Yeah, everybody, audio, and I would start listening to podcasting. I actually have a Father's Day gift from 2007, the first color iPod. It's even engraved, Happy Father's Day. And I had a skateboard shop for like 8 years in the early 2000s. And after I got out of college, I was there, I was working, I was packing orders, shipping orders all over the world. And what I was doing during the day was I was listening to podcasts. I was getting this extra education of, the Beancast and Marketing Over Coffee, and Joseph Jaffe had one called Advertcast at the time. And I realized that there's something here to podcasting that's way bigger than I get. Like, I went to college, but now I'm getting this free education from these experts who are doing the thing in real life. And as podcasting has evolved, all we hear now is, audio is so and so, but video is the future. Video is where you got to be. Video is the thing that's happening. And while we have done that for what video podcasting has always been around, it's not necessarily the behavior that most people consume podcasts in. It's a lot of times it's just passive. It's background. It's during your commute, during a workout. It does fill another need of entertainment that you don't get from video. Video, you got to really sit down in your chair, pull up YouTube, pull up Spotify, and really commit to that viewing session. But I think that there's something else happening. I think there's something more than video is the future of podcasting. I think it's exactly what you're talking about. The future is connection. The future is live events, is performance, is doing something the same way bands do it, right? Bands go, they tour, they play small clubs, they play bars. Comedians don't just make videos. They play clubs, they play theaters. They get out and they connect with the audience in a way that you can't with an MP3 file, but you can, like when you're at those conferences and after you get done speaking, you're shaking hands, you're trading business cards, you're making eye contact, you're meeting people in a way that an email doesn't cover, a social media post doesn't cover. It's the type of connection that builds that longevity. And I do think audio and video have their place, but I think as podcasting evolves, it's going to be about these face-to-face connections, these in-person events. That's where we're headed towards.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I like like anyone, I love a good hybrid, because podcasting is so much easier now post-pandemic because we're all virtual, and it made it easier for people like me that were like, I want to do a podcast, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so when people say that now, what is the first thing you say to someone? Because you have a lot of experience in different modalities of podcasting. So where do you tell someone who's interested in starting a podcast, where do they start?
Yeah, I like to slow them down and let's set expectations. What is the goal of this podcast? Why do you want to do this? If you just want to hang out with your buddies on a Tuesday night, it's an excuse to get out of the house. That's great. Podcasting is amazing as a get together with friends. If that's your goal, let's figure it out. Let's figure out how we can set it up for you. But if it's something that this is my business, I want to grow a bunch of subscribers. I want to read ads for Purple Mattress and Sherry's Berries. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to look at some stats. We got to look at the numbers behind podcasting. And what I like to set expectations, and why I like to show the model that I'm building is so much stronger than the model that most podcasters are presented. If you look at server logs from Buzzsprout or Libsyn, you're going to see that 90% of podcasts do not get 1,000 downloads in 30 days. And that's okay. If you know that and you go into that's okay. But if you think you're going to be the next Joe Rogan, well, let's think about that. That the audience, it's hard to build that audience. But if you know that, and let's say you can get to 5,000, 6,000, we know that advertising rates are pretty good rates for $20 per $1,000. So, or $20 per 1,000 downloads. So every 1,000 downloads you get, an advertiser will pay you $20. If you get to 5,000 downloads, you can make $100 for that one ad in that one episode. And what I start to tell people, let's think about that. 90% of people aren't getting to that level, and that's okay. But if you did, you could make 5,000 people $100. Let's rewind that a little bit and let's slow it down. Let's think about where we're at right now in our community, our friends and our family. If you were to do a live event and sell 10 tickets, and you did $10 a ticket, those 10 people showing up for you are $10 per person, whereas that download is 2 cents per download. Mm-hmm. So you're talking, 500 times more valuable to have an audience member watch you in person than to hope somebody downloads an MP3 file. So if we're valuing cost per visitor, the 2 cents for the digital download versus the $10 of someone in front of you, what's more achievable? Is it more likely that you can get 10 people to your show and make $100? Or are you going to get 5,000 people to download your podcast to make $100? But what if you start like these things that we're talking about, this connection, you connect with 10 people, guess what? The next time, maybe it's 15 people. You grow a little bit. Now you're on par with people making, getting 7,500 downloads an episode. You have 15 people in an audience and you're making an equal amount of revenue. So that's where I think that the future is. I think that because for 90% of podcasters, that's so much more attainable than trying to get to 10,000 downloads, 20,000 downloads. You can do that, but what we're seeing is the people who are doing that already have an established name. They're an actress, a comedian. They're already have some level of fame, and they're drawing that audience. They're drawing those ad dollars. So what's left for the rest of us? Performing in our communities, our towns, building an audience locally, getting out of that algorithm mindset and building something tangible that we own and that we can share with people face to face. And that's the model that I've been preaching. That's where I'm really pushing people towards.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have built here. And monetizing my podcast has not been a priority to me. Now, I often think I should be monetizing this. And you and I were talking off air. I'm like, yeah, I'm up to getting 3 episodes a week out. I have so much content. I'm like, otherwise, our interview that we're doing today, which is June 10th, won't be airing till almost 2 months from now. And that's still releasing 3 episodes a week. Maybe I need to take my foot off the gas, Jeff. I don't know. But the other thing, too, is I just love doing it. Like, yeah. I love connecting with people. It isn't about the money. It isn't about building an author platform. I didn't even learn about that till I was in the midst of writing my book. And a friend said, oh, this is great. You have a podcast for your author platform. I'm like, huh? What's that? But it is interesting to learn. And you're teaching me so much right now about, you hear the stats of how many podcasts make it to 100 episodes and how many make it to 200 and how downloads this. And I'm definitely not chasing algorithms. But I am doing live events, as I mentioned, but I also hosted my own conference in Kalamazoo too to lift women up. And so it's really about, like I talked about earlier, like this hybrid version, right? Like there's different ways to build an audience and what are the actual benchmarks that are important to someone that is interested in podcasting, because it doesn't have to be Joe Rogan or Mel Robbins or whoever.
Yeah, and a great use, like for your use case, the podcast isn't the monetization, it's building the credibility for the events. I'm sure you've had people, hey, I came to your event because I listened to your podcast, and hey, you can imagine what a conference ticket costs compared to just a regular one-night ticket. So that's exponentially more valuable than a 2-cent download from a digital ad. You're getting people, your product is something else in real life. It's the conferences, it's the appearances. Those are the things that your goal for your podcast is to drive towards these other things. And that's another thing that we would talk about if somebody was interested in podcasting. Do you want to just hang out with your buddies, or do you have a business you want to promote? A lot of times podcasts are just lead generators. A lot of businesses, like Maria Daniels out of Ohio, she does Reset Business Consulting. She does a couple podcasts a month. She gets leads from that in her community, and then she goes and speaks, at the Chamber of Commerce. She promotes the podcast. Those people hear her, then they hire her. So in her mind, her podcast is a lead gen to get local business, and that's another way to think about why would you want to start a podcast.
I also think, speaking of like Chamber of Commerce and all that, like I found podcasting has been a great way of networking. Again, a bonus like you and I wouldn't have met otherwise. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, 8 hours apart. Yeah.
Yeah. Fellow Gen X over here. I just had my birthday last Monday, June 1st. So we're Geminis over here. Yeah. Now you're just a couple years ahead of me, but the big 5-0 is, does it feel like different?
I'll let you know all the benefits of my AARP card once I get it.
Isn't it funny how like 50 just seemed like, oh my, like when we were younger, and now that, I'm knocking on the doorstep and you're at the doorstep, where it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it goes by so quickly. And, you know, there's part of it where you're like, oh my goodness, I'm 50 already, but there's also part of it where like I'm kind of hitting a stride. Like I really love this part of life too. Like, and you know, I would have thought 20 years ago, would have thought of 50 as like my sunset years, but I see it as like a tremendous amount of freedom, a tremendous amount of creativity. I probably have the best 20 years ahead of me.
Yes.
And you know, I'm looking forward. Like it's almost energizing. Whereas you know the early part of I will say it when you work a full-time job and you have a family and you got kids and that's your priority. Like so, your mid-30s and your 40s are very draining. Like you're just trying to get to point A. You got to get soccer practice, gymnastics. You got graduations. It's hard to do other things. But now that my girls are older, they're 16 and 20 coming up. Like they're pretty independent. They don't need dad so much anymore. And as they you know become independent and break off on their own, I'm able to become Jeff again. And I really see like these like the last couple years and then going forward, like I think this is gonna be the best time of my life coming up the next 20, 25 years.
I totally agree. And I think that our generation looks way younger at 50 than our parents. So
Yeah. Yeah, like I look at pictures like people don't believe me when I tell them I'm 50. This isn't the best framing of my face, but this is like I'm like you're 50. Like people don't believe it, and it's so I don't mind it. I'm not complaining, but I do have that fear that like on day 50 years and day one, like it all just catches up to me, and I'm all of a sudden I got a gray hair and a cane, and I'm like,
hang on a minute, you haven't had any gray hairs yet?
I mean, I do have some over here, like whenever they cut my hair, but I mean, I'm still pretty dark.
You
and
are
I still have
dark.
a pretty good full head of hair, so like,
You're
I'm
doing
happy.
good. I mean, I had all this silver starting to come in, and I was trying to embrace it. And then one day I went to my stylist, and I was like, "Fuck this shit! I gotta get it." I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not that cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to switch gears. Let's talk about the women in your life. You mentioned your daughters, and you can expand on them too. But I want to know who the women in your life are, Jeff, that helped you become the man that sits before me today.
Yeah, you know, I call them the girls, right? The three girls that I live with, my wife and my two daughters, and late last year, like this was the theater. I was like, I don't know, you know, the lease is up. I don't think I'm going to do it. And you know, to their credit, for as much as they supported me doing this and following this dream, all three of them immediately said, "Dad," like, and my wife was like, "You can't stop this. Like, this is already in motion. This is your dream. Like, this is I talked about this for 7 years, you know, before we put this together. So like I'm focused on this more than ever because of like the way that they supported me in November and December of last year. They were like, "You're not giving this up. Like, there's something here. There's something special. Like, keep going. Like, keep doing it." So, you know, as much as I was there for you know the girls, the daughters, whenever they were younger, and you know, we had gymnastics and color guard and football games and all these things that we were doing. You know, they kind of like I felt like wow, like that was almost like repaid back. Like I must have set a good foundation for them to realize, like, Dad, you also have to follow your dreams too. Like, you got to do your thing. So that meant a lot to me. Because sometimes, you know, you have a business. Sometimes it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Sometimes it's in the same day. Sometimes it's in the same hour. You feel like king of the world, and then you feel like, what am I doing? Yep. And you know, they were all three of them just ganged up on me and said, "No, you're going forward with this. Like, this is your thing." And I was like, okay. And then I wipe the tears from my eyes. Like, yeah. I love you guys. Yeah.
It's cool to have that support, right? And they recognize that you're supporting their dreams and goals too.
Yeah, I really didn't expect it to be. I didn't expect them to like go that hard into like, you really have to stick with this. I thought they'd be like supportive, like, okay, Dad, you know, if you don't want to do it anymore, don't do it anymore. But they really like ganged up on me. so like we still have the theater.
It's a great backdrop.
Yeah.
One of the things you had written in your bio and I wanted to ask you about was, I believe the words were lifelong learner, or that you enjoy learning and curiosity. So what are you learning about right now? Or what are you reading? What are you listening to? Fill me in there.
Yeah, I I had this idea for a show. So I'm always pushing the levels of efficiency, right? So I want to see like we explained how the theater works. It's a one person show. It's like Aldi, right? You can run the whole store with one person. And I had this idea for a trivia show, which we just recorded 2 weeks ago for the first time. I had a luchador as a contestant, and what we did 4 games in one night. So each game had a prize, and then the final game had a much bigger prize. But we recorded this over 2 hours, and it's 4 episodes of a podcast. So this one night, where as the proof of concept for the pilot episode, we had like 20 people in the audience. We had, the prizes, we had the recordings, and we've already dropped the first 2 episodes. But that 2 hours generated a month worth of content. And because of the way I structured the show, because there's 20 questions, each of the 20 questions become a little short. So now this one night I recorded 80 shorts, 4 full-length episodes. They also become video episodes on YouTube. And this idea of just pushing that boundary of efficiency, pushing that boundary of like, what can we do? Because now, Trivia with Jeff can be merchandise. It can be ticket sales. It can be the prize money. I gave everybody a little magazine. I don't know if I have one around here, but they got a little fanzine. One piece of paper I fold up into 8 pages. So they get this commemorative zine. I can sell ad space in that. I can have sponsors to do the prizes. So this one little vehicle that I just put together, which took, don't get me wrong, it took me time to write the shows and build the questions in the slide. But that idea of like, how far can I take this? Like, how efficient can I be? A 2-hour show fills a 30-day calendar worth of content. And that's the way my brain works. So things that I'm working on is I really want to dive into this episode. I think that there's something here with what we recorded 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to keep pushing that and see how far I can take it. And even with the first 4 episodes, there's a lot of good nuggets in there already. And we learned a lot about how to do this a little bit better for future episodes. So that's what I'm focused on right now. That's really where I'm pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, and you've mentioned creative mind a lot, as you and I've been talking about. So clearly, creativity and tapping into that side, was it the left side of the brain or however that works, is something that you find invigorating and you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from my skateboard brain as a kid. Like when you grow up skateboarding, you look at the world completely different. Whereas people just see a bench or a ledge or some steps or a handrail, you see a challenge, you see an obstacle, and you see it like you have to approach it a certain way. And you may have to do it 100 times before you land it. You may have to do it again. If you're trying to film it, the filmer may have messed up, and then you got to do it, maybe another 50 times to get the trick right. And so, but that repetition, that learning how to approach a trick, like you first learn to approach it, and then you have to learn, okay, I got to come in at this angle. Then I got to come in at this speed. If I come in at this angle and that speed, then I got to shift my weight this way. So everything that you try as a skateboarder, as a kid, you're really learning like points of failure and how to get past that point of failure. And that has carried with me. If anything has carried with me through those being a Gen X skateboarder from the 80s and 90s, is like that mentality of you can't tell me that something can't be done. I will find the way around it. I will keep poking and prodding and pushing buttons and pulling levers, and I will find the way around it. And that's probably how we end up with a podcast theater. Is we figured out how to do that, and that's the way my brain, that curiosity, that creative brain, is mostly figuring out problems or figuring out new ways to do things that are slightly more efficient. And that I can't get away from that. And I really appreciate those younger days. Like skateboarding was such a great life lesson.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'll take that with me forever.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, a couple more questions and we'll wrap up. Tell me, Jeff, how you lift women up.
I mean, I love sharing the space. I love we just had Jessica Sutton in there, and she gave we worked together for like 4 weeks on putting together an audio drama. Like, what is an audio drama? How do you perform audio dramas? And we kept putting and trying and testing. And, we made sure that when it came time for her showtime, that everything was buttoned up. We really made sure. And I do that through the Pittsburgh podcast meetups that we do every month. We're constantly trying to showcase voices, have shows that, tailored to everybody on that stage. And that's when you come to the theater, I hope you come out sometime.
I would.
You will see like how open of a place this is. The audience that shows up for the Pittsburgh podcast meetups, how much you can tell from an audience how safe of a place is by who's in attendance. And if you're ever out there, anybody who hears this, come out and check out these events. You will be like, holy heck, this is a who's who of America, and this is a place for everybody. It's safe for everybody. Come perform, say what you need to say, and here's the place. The doors are always open.
I love that. And when I'm out in Pittsburgh, I will be getting with you because I would love to come out there. And I go all over the country for hockey, so it won't be long. I'll be out there at some point.
Awesome. The stage is yours. You tell me the date. You can have the night.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I'll have to look at this. Because you guys aren't that far from Wheeling, West Virginia, are you?
About an hour.
Yeah, that's not far. And see, our hockey team, the K-Wings, play the Wheeling Nailers, which is, so if the team is there, I'm not far away. So,
yes.
Well, I'll have to look at that. I'll definitely have to
Stop
look
by.
at that.
I'll buy you a Permanis.
All right, last or two questions, but this one's a fun one. You're about ready to go on vacation. Are you flying somewhere?
No, I'm just taking a 5-day breather. I'm working on the show a lot. And I don't have anything planned. I'm speaking. Podfest is actually doing Pod Tour in Pittsburgh on the 16th, so I'll be speaking during that event for a little bit. But other than that, I'm just going to relax. We got a steak dinner on Sunday for me, and we'll go from there. But just this is 5 days R&R, 1 day for every decade I've been alive. That was my goal.
Well, I was going to ask you, when you do fly on a plane, this is the fun question. Are you someone that checks a bag, or are you a carry-on only?
Oh, I'm a mix, because I will check a bag and I will have a carry-on. That's usually my laptop or something. I don't mind. I'm rarely ever in such a hurry that I need to get that bag right away. So, I'm pretty much a leisurely traveler. I don't travel for work unless it's a conference. So I'm in no hurry to get that other. I'd rather have the stuff in the hotel room that I need and not worry about, am I being the most efficient I can on the plane? So. I will not stand up until it's my turn to clear my row. So the people who stand, I do not. So if that's a follow-up question, sit down, people. Why are you standing?
No, my husband and I laugh about that. He's like, Josh, what are they doing? It's not.
Yeah,
I'm
where are you going?
No, I swear to God, it doesn't matter if I'm traveling for professionally or just for pleasure. I'm allergic to checking bags. And I'm just, it's so ridiculous. And I love to make fun of myself and my quirks. I'm like, I'll go to Europe for 2 weeks with a carry-on. It's just, I'm insane. So, okay. Jeff, this was so much fun. If people want to check out your podcast, link up with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, go to Poduty.com, Poduty.com. That's the name of the theater. It has a link to all of our podcasts, our upcoming events, what this theater space is about, how you can use it. We don't have a contract. We don't have a minimum ticket requirements. We'll build you a landing page, sell the tickets, and we'll split the door with you at the end of the night 50-50. So super easy business model. And you can check it out. Everything I say is on the website. So, you can always hold me accountable. Wait a second, you said that. I'm like, well, it's also on the website, Poduty.com, Poduty.com. Or if you want to learn more about me, there's JeffRevilla.com, or find me on LinkedIn as well. You'll see I'm fairly active over there.
Yeah, we're connected over there too. Well, Jeff, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I love the work you're doing, and I'm definitely going to be figuring out how I make something happen out there at Poduty. And I think it'd be really cool to do something live together.
Well, let's record a Poduty in the News live in Pittsburgh. That'll be great.
Yeah, I love it. That'll be fun. Well, thank you all for another great episode of Women In. If you're looking to connect with me, I am not hard to find. The hockey side of my life is at kwings.com. And then everything else I'm working on with the big project coming to life, which is Rebellious Success, my book, is available for pre-order now and will be in your mailboxes and in bookstores on August 11th. All of that can be found at tonywill.com, and I'm on all social media platforms as well. And until next time.